Today on Inside Utah Politics, we're checking in with former Congresswoman Mia Love. She's here to discuss her unsuccessful bid for re-election and what's next for her political career. Plus, Utah's new Senator Mitt Romney creates a firestorm with an op-ed criticizing President Trump's character. Our panel will weigh in on what it means and the impact.
Time now for Inside Utah Politics.
Good Sunday morning, and thanks so much for joining us for Inside Utah Politics. I'm Glenn Mills. We begin this morning with former Congresswoman Mia Love. Not used to saying that at this point, and I'm sure you're not used to hearing it. You sit here, and you probably thought you'd be in the 116th session. Yeah. So looking back on the campaign, what happened from your perspective?
Well, you know, unfortunately, this campaign was not about the issues. It wasn't about what was good for Utah, what was good for the country. It was about just character assassination and all of the lies that came out, FEC lies that came out that were then again proven that there was no issue there. They still continued to go on and put that out on TV for everybody to see. And so, you know, there are some people out there, some of my colleagues out there that said, well, it could have been worse. You know, a lot of them, their families were attacked inaccurately, unfairly. And so I have to say that this is what politics is now. And I talked about this campaign and all of the things that have happened in Utah and how this is the stuff that Utah can come to expect now because we've allowed this type of politics to win.
Going back, your opponent, Ben McAdams, he would say the same thing, that, you know, he was lied about and negative toward him as well. Is there anything you would change looking back on the campaign at this point?
The only thing that I feel I would change, I don't know if we really had the power to do that. I wanted to talk about the issues. I wanted to talk about tax reform. I wanted to talk about all of the bills that we have passed. I wanted to talk about the sexual harassment bill that I've passed and what we were able to do with Juab County and helping them fight fires. I wanted to talk about the Sitla land bills that allowed us to give more funding towards education. I wanted to talk about those issues because all of those issues really make a significant difference. Medical device tax that we were able to repeal in the House 4 times. I led those efforts. There's so many different things that I wanted to talk about, but obviously there's something to gain from the Democratic Party not wanting to talk about those issues because they couldn't win on those issues. So it's if I had to change anything, it would just do everything I can to make sure that we were talking about those issues and not get into trying to defend myself for lies that were put out there about me.
Talk about the role the National Democratic Party played in your campaign and how you assess that now.
You know, I still look. I mean, this is the 4th district is an R+13 district. They really went after this district. They went after me personally because of who I am and what I represent. I am.
Explain that though, real quick. What do you mean by that? Because of you? Because you're conservative?
I am the only Black Republican female ever elected in Congress. I was out talking to people, engaging with Black communities, Hispanic communities, in a place where they felt like I actually cared, and that's a bad place for someone to be if you're trying to take the seat. So these are the types of things that I talk about that the Republican Party needs to do more of. We need to engage in places where people really feel like they care, that we care about them. This is not just transactional, it's about real relationships. And that's what I said before. We look at politics and we say, well, it's not personal, it's just politics. Well, darn it, it is personal. It's absolutely personal to me, and it's personal to everybody that decisions are being made for.
I want to dig into a little bit more of that, both on the Republican and the Democratic side. The Democratic delegation just sent the most diverse delegation really in the history of the country into the 116th Congress. So are you saying that they were racially motivated against you, or it's because of your policies and your conservative
It's
thinking?
Both. They only like diversity when they think just like them. I am a conservative Republican woman from the state of Utah. If I do not walk in lockstep with the Democratic Party, then that's not the kind of diversity they want. And so I'm going to do everything I can to make sure I talk about our policies, to go out and to engage with people and let people know why our policies are actually good for them. Charles Barkley is a great example where he said, I voted Democrat for 22 years. What have I gotten out of that? How has that actually helped me? And so I want to talk about the issues and the policies that actually lift people, give people an opportunity to not just take care of themselves and their families, but give them the opportunity and the resources to take care of each other.
Let's dig more into the Republican side of that.
Okay.
In your concession speech, you brought that up,
Yeah.
specifically with President Trump. We all know the pretty famous line, infamous line, whatever you want to call it at this point, that Mia Love showed me no love and she lost.
Yeah.
You draw racial undertones from that as well.
Well, it's what I draw from that is that I found I didn't understand what he was trying to gain from that. I didn't understand what a president would gain from throwing a fellow Republican under the bus, even before the election was called. So I felt like it was very transactional. In his mind, he thought, well, I don't need her anymore, so I'm going to go ahead and throw her under the bus. And that is a fundamental problem with the Republican Party.
So how do you change that? What do they need to do to change?
We need to make sure that we are engaging with people on a personal level, that this is not just transactional. This is not about you win or I win. This is about working together to make sure the American people win. This is what I'm talking about when it comes to immigration policies. So many people dig their heads in the sand and they don't realize that if they really just look up, realize that all of us are Americans. They're people who have come, not every single person grew out of the ground in the United States soil, that we have something that we can work towards that means something to us. When we talk about things like, well, not little things, big things like the environment. I have so many colleagues that just won't even talk about the positive effects that we can make on the environment as we go forward. So those are the types of things that I think that we can do as conservatives that would bring people to come along with us and also engage on a level where we talk about those policies that lift people from the poor to the middle class and beyond if they choose.
Let's talk about the lame duck session after you lost the election.
Yeah.
You drew some criticism for missing some votes. That's something you touted that you were proud of throughout your career.
Yeah.
Talk about those votes and why you missed them.
Well, I can tell you this, that no one talked about is that I had a 100% voting record. There was no news about that, and I think it's one of the reasons why Utahns and people around the country are so skeptical when it comes to media and information. It was completely skewed.
How so?
I have a 100% voting record. I took 3 days off to spend some time with my son who really needed me, a time where we weren't even scheduled to be in session, and they called us in and they put a lot of suspension votes on to stall to see if we can get a vote from the Senate. So of course, people who want to take their final jab criticize me. Alliance for a Better Utah criticizes me for being with my son at a time where he really needed me. What does that say to women who want to get out there and run for office? What does that say for mothers who are working? That all of a sudden there's a double standard, and if your child really needs you, that you're not going to be there. I've sacrificed 4 years of my time with my family, and I get criticized for 3 days. I think it's absolutely mean.
So there was no hint of disappointment or resentment from losing the race. If you would have won, you still would have missed those days. If you won the race, you still would have missed those days.
If I won the race, I would have missed those days, yes, because my son really needed me, and I don't feel as if I need to explain that to anyone. I think my record for the past 4 years speaks for itself, and I have no regrets. I am first and foremost a mother, a wife, I'm a Utahn, and I'm not going to neglect my children when they really need me.
What's next?
Well,
we have 2020 coming up. We have a potential another run for the 4th Congressional District. We have an open governor seat.
Yeah.
What's next for you? Also, people have speculated maybe you would get into the media and provide some analysis.
Well, there are a lot of opportunities. I've been presented with a couple of opportunities. Either way, I'm going to leave my options open. I don't know what I'm doing next, but
have we seen the end of you in the political arena?
I don't think so. I don't think so. I think that there's a lot to offer, and that, you know, I've always said, and my husband says this also, that if you're not standing up, if you're not making your voice heard, if you're not standing up for the principles that you believe in, then somebody else will do that for you. One of the things that's really frustrating is that everybody's identifying, whether it's Republican or conservatism, with one person, and that's the person of the administration. I think we need to do everything we can to take that back and say, I am a Republican and I'm defined by a set of principles and by a platform. And that's why I'm Republican, not because I follow a person, but because I follow those things.
All right, well, keep us posted on what's next. We didn't
Thank
quite
you.
get the answer, but I'm sure you'll tell us eventually.
Well, stay tuned.
Glad to have you on the show. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Still to come, now that Democrats have control of the House, what can we expect from Congress? Our panel will debate that a little bit later. But first, just a few weeks away now from opening day of the Utah legislative session, we'll hear from a local group that is keeping a close eye on how lawmakers respond to voter-approved initiatives.